test, but just, and
Call to order a meeting for the Normal Town Council for December 3rd, 2018. Please call the roll.
Mayor Kus?
Here?
Mr. Fritzen?
Here.
Mr. McBride?
Here.
Mrs. Cummings?
Here.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Here.
Mr. Preston?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right, I forgot about that. I got a
Sit
call
back
to
down.
order.
Just kidding.
Just practice.
So I don't need to adjourn and do this. We can just call to order the public hearing. Call to order a public hearing pertaining to the proposed community development block grant citizen participation plan. Please call the roll.
Mayor Kus?
Here?
Mr. Fritzen?
Here.
Mr. McBride?
Here.
Mrs. Cummings?
Here.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Here.
Mr. Preston?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Is there anyone wishing to speak regarding the proposed community development block grant citizen participation plan? Mr. Walter, if you want to come forward. And just to make it all official, your name and address for the record.
John Wolter, 1005 Bakewell in Normal. I'm a 50-year resident, so we've been here a few years. I'm here because the Pentagraph this morning said you're looking for public comment, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm a concerned citizen in that I live in North Normal. Fairview Park, many years ago, in preparation for the swimming pool, took away a black-topped recreational area that was used for basically basketball. That has never been replaced. We in North Normal have a concentration of apartments with middle-aged and younger people that need recreational areas. There have been some problems in that area that we'd like to see solved. And I'm proposing that the town consider using maybe, if it's possible, some of this community block development money to address the need for additional recreational courts. Basically basketball, but it could be anything. But as I thought about this, and I've had this idea for a number of years, that we need to do something as a community, and this just might be an opportunity to use some money to develop some areas. The other thought I have, you had a police department facility at North Normal that no longer is being used, but there was a vacant lot right next to that to the west that could be an ideal spot for an additional recreational area. And the last thought, and this is kind of a wild idea, but there's a school right there, Fairview School, where we have a large recreational area that's not being used during off-school hours. In fact, I believe last year it was gated off, not allowing its use. The question I have is that not available then on weekends for anyone to use? I don't think it is, because it's gated off. And there may be some other reasons for that happening, for liability with Unit 5, or some other reasons, I don't know, but at least as I explore and think about the need for this, the need for additional recreational area, I think there's opportunities there that maybe the town could use, could trigger ideas, to come up with a way to provide some additional recreational space. Maybe this isn't the body or the time for me to present this, but the Pentagraph triggered me this morning. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak pertaining to the proposed community development block grant citizen participation plan? Mr. Omer?
Ron Ulmer, a resident of Normal. To provide public goods cost-effectively, governments need to break the current public sector paradigms. Similar to how Rivian's revolutionary concept vehicles are kind of shaking up the auto industry, and matter of fact, on one national report on the Los Angeles Auto Show, that was the lead story, was Rivian's vehicles. Unfortunately, historic American auto companies cannot think outside the box of the sedan, the pickup, and the current SUV paradigms. Similarly, both Sears and Penney's, of whom prospered for decades with mail order and downtown stores, and then moved to the enclosed malls, they made that transition. But when the shopping paradigm switched to outdoor malls, such as College Hills, and the internet, they stuck to enclosed malls as their only marketing channel. They failed to recognize, and I kept wondering when Sears was going to say, gosh, we were in the catalog and mail business for years, why not use the internet and mail, or whatever means, up-to-date means of shipping. But anyway, they failed to recognize the only difference between mail order and today is the transactional technology. I have some similar outside-the-box ideas about housing concepts. As I noticed, I wasn't at the last meeting, but there was discussion about the hotel occupancy rate in Bloomington Normal. And I think that either you should go to all the hotels, perhaps, or identify those that are most likely to close. I doubt that all of them can survive with a 50% occupancy rate, and converting them into one-bedroom or efficiency affordable housing, and have the current owners or few new owners participate, not have it just be strictly government. I question or wonder what would happen. Could you possibly collaborate with ISU to convert the vacant Shelbourne apartments into affordable housing, which could also benefit ISU financially? I never hear anything about what's going on with those other than the gates have been locked there for about 3 years. And then lastly, just make a list of vacant commercial spaces in Bloomington Normal, and then evaluate which one could be possibly converted into affordable housing. Finally, I have one other idea not related to housing. Remember when modest-sized cities even had branch libraries? The greatest barrier to children having access to a library to reading is transportation during the summer. My recommendation is to use block grant funds to collaborate with neighborhood schools, libraries, and be open during the summer. In other words, kids could walk to the libraries. I still don't think we need a grandiose big building that's everything to everyone. You got to take it to where the customer or where the need is. Reading and vocabulary are necessary to learn. No matter what a person reads, learning takes place. I have read words such as conundrum and cacophony, and the economics concept, which is close to my heart, GDP, in the comics. Yes, I think there's more big words in the comics many days in the panagraph than there is on the editorial page. For 8 years, I had to walk across a set of railroad tracks 4 times a day, frequently waiting for long, slow freights. Sometimes I played tag and goofed around with the other kids, but sometimes I read all the words on the cars, such as all the way on the Santa Fe, and Southern gives a green light to progress, because Southern invented the big hopper car for commodity transportation, and the other railroads and the government fought it and wouldn't allow Southern to use those cars for many years. So anyway, I was also learning economics then. But anyway, thank you very much.
And third and final time, is there anyone here wishing to speak pertaining to the proposed Community Development Block Grant Citizen Participation Plan? Motion
Move
for
adjourn.
adjournment. Thank you.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Fritzen?
Aye.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Cummings?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. The public hearing is adjourned. We're still in session for the regular meeting. We may have had a request to speak in public comment. Mr. Ulmer, was that your, that was your desire? Thank you.
Yep.
I'm sorry?
Pledge.
Oh, Pledge of Allegiance, yes. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, we begin with the omnibus agenda, items considered routine in nature and will be taken with one vote unless a council member would like to pull an item for discussion. I would like to be excused on voting any bills I may have incurred in my duties as mayor. Ms. Cummings?
I would like to be excused from any expenses I incurred during.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to be excused from voting on the Bloomington offset bills.
Thank you.
Move approval. Second.
Items considered under the omnibus agenda tonight are approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 19th, 2018, and approval of town of Normal expenditures for payment as of November 28th, 2018. Resolution extending a license agreement with Peoria Charter Coach Company for access to Uptown Station as a transportation provider. A resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement for the police shooting fire range facility with the city of Bloomington. An ordinance modifying Division 1 of Chapter 5 of the Town of Normal Municipal Code having to do with the police department to authorize fingerprint services. A resolution waiving the formal procurement process and authorizing a 3-year service agreement with Evoqua Water Technologies LLC and the installation of odor control and corrosion protection measures at the North Bridge Pump Station and authorizing an associated budget adjustment. Water and sewer always have the best omnibus items. That was a lot. Motion to approve the year 2019 town meeting calendar, and a motion to authorize an amendment to the fiscal year 2018-2019 Illinois Employer Social Security and Medicare budget for the general fund. Please call the roll.
Mr. Fritzen?
Aye.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Cummings?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. The omnibus agenda is approved. We have 2 items of general orders, the first of which is the ordinance authorizing the 2018 property tax levy.
Move approval. Second.
A discussion on this item? Please call the roll.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Cummings?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mr. Fritzen?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. The ordinance is approved. Item 8 is ordinances authorizing the abatement of 2018 property taxes for debt service.
Move approval. Second.
Discussion on this item. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Cummings?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mr. Fritzen?
Aye.
Mr. McBride?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye, the ordinance is approved. Item 9 is a resolution and under new business authorizing the filing of the town's Community Development Block Grant Citizen Participation Plan.
Move approval. Second.
Is there discussion on this item? Mr. Fritzen?
Just that, over the many years that I've been in one of these seats, we've not approached it in this way, and I just commend staff and the regional planning, others that have been involved in putting this together to try to elicit more public input, because we have public hearings that we're required to have about different matters, and we get a few comments, and glad to see a couple of citizens out here tonight, but that's the exception typically rather than the rule, and this is one where I think over the years there have been times when it's I don't know if difficult's the right word, but there are some uncertainties about how do we best use and put this money to work, and I think this is great to get out and try to be accessible and get some input from the general public on this to help us out.
Great, thank you. Ms. Lorenz?
Well, similarly, I have some questions about the timing of some of the work that will be done to elicit this information. So there was some talk in the materials that we have here about open houses and focus groups and surveys. So do we have a time frame for when those will be commencing? And given the fact that we've had a couple of interested parties tonight, they might be interested in knowing when those are going to be.
Well, I'm going to ask Associate Planner Taylor Long to come forward. He's the one who's been instrumental in managing the CDBG program and working with regional planning and the city of Bloomington on this plan. So we'll give Taylor the floor here.
Yeah, sure. That type of thing, those different ways of seeking input right there that you described, those are ones that would be part of the upcoming consolidated plan process. So we'll have public hearings much like the one we had before here, and then also comment periods that are tied to, say, annual action plans, but they'll also be part of the consolidated planning process. But since that's a 5-year plan that's so broad and overarching that covers a lot of things, you know, sets goals and priorities for the upcoming 5 years, that's a little more robust. So that's when those surveys and public hearings, public meetings, stuff like that would take place. And we're lucky to have regional planning to help facilitate a lot of those. So, and the one thing that's different about this plan, say, than ones past is, of course, it has the kind of stock language that HUD requires. So whether it's based on the action item, it might be a shorter or longer comment period or that kind of thing. But so that's kind of stock language. What's different is that this plan outlines a intergovernmental cooperative approach to addressing, say, issues or problems or successes different programs that are working well in the community. We can take we're available because we're restricted in how we can spend money, but where we can take a regional approach to it. And that's the exciting thing moving forward.
Okay. I think, and I'm going to add to Taylor's comments, I think in terms of this plan also, it does specifically articulate that the purpose of the plan is to get input from all the appropriate stakeholders and all sorts of stakeholders in the community on identifying needs and setting priorities, which we probably don't have a specific timeline for that, but it's as we have to file documentation and lay out our funding priorities.
Okay.
I
Which
guess
we
I
do
could-
each year.
I could drill in and be a little more specific there. The consolidated plan, it'll run out on March 31st, 2020.
Right.
So drafting and the work for this upcoming consolidated plan will begin in 2019. So
Okay.
2019, you'll see all these things taking
Okay.
place. Yeah,
Good to know.
I guess that's the root of
That
your
was probably
question.
what I was looking
Yeah,
for. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Further on this item? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz.
Aye.
Mr. Preston.
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Aye.
Mr. Fritzen.
Aye.
Mr. McBride.
Aye.
Mrs. Cummings.
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye. The resolution is approved. That concludes our business tonight. Before taking a motion for adjournment, are there comments or concerns? Motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Preston.
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy.
Aye.
Mr. Fritzen.
Aye.
Mr. McBride.
Aye.
Mrs. Cummings.
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz.
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
I always get the leaky glass. Another one.
I do that just for you.
Did I say that? I think I did say that. So you want to see what I just posted? I didn't do these.